What's up, guys? Welcome back to Michigan Muckraker. My name's Michelle. Today is the 15th of January, 2024, and there is so much going on in Michigan that I actually have difficulty narrowing down what to share with you, what is most important. Everything is really important right now, so it seems. It's an election year, and news is busy. But personally, I think that grassroots movements and uh, localization is the only answer for the political strife that we see all across the United States and the world, really. So, something that I find very important are militias. It's part of the Second Amendment, and I am absolutely for the Second Amendment, of course. So, the first thing I want to jump into is this new bill that the Democrats are putting forth that are trying to neutralize or neuter the militias. And Michigan actually has a militia movement that's going on, so it coincides. The other thing I want to share with you, I have news on Gotion. There's a few updates, nothing too big, but important enough that I wanted to share it with you because Gotion really started this channel, honestly. I met so many real grassroots individuals, real people, my neighbors, that want America to be, what America used to be, really. Their forgotten country, so to speak. So I really feel privileged in that way that I got to meet so many awesome people. For the most part, they're conservatives, Republicans, independent, green, anything but Democrats. Honestly, I haven't met very many Democratic grassroots individuals. Democrat. But that's not to say they're not out there. I just haven't met them. So I do have some updates on the GOP. I myself, not being a Republican, I feel though that I need to pay attention to this because it's about grassroots. Christina Caramo was picked by the grassroots movement, and unfortunately, there's been a rift because of the major thing is funding. So I'm going to get into that, but I'm going to start first with the militia. Oh, and also Ferris State University. I have some news on that as well. It's unreal how big Ferris State actually is, like how important. So we're going to get into it. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I really appreciate you wanting to pay attention to what's going on. So let's do this. So the first thing is the Michigan Constitutional Sheriff offers militia course for patriots to defend the homeland. This was December 27th of last year. Berry County, Michigan Sheriff Dar Leaf is offering a militia course for patriots in his county to use their Second Amendment rights to defend the homeland. According to a Facebook post, Leaf is offering the course to learn a militiaman's duty. He will provide a certificate upon course completion and welcomes potential jurors, homeschoolers, ladies and gentlemen. Leaf is one of the nation's leading constitutional sheriffs. He is outspoken about the county sheriff's duty to interpose their authority to reject unconstitutional and immoral laws at the federal and state levels. Sounds like my kind of guy. Big League Politics has reported on the rise of the militia movement in Michigan in response to Governor Gretchen Whitmer's intolerable acts. Hello, family. Good morning, Dragonfly. Thank you for hanging out. Hopefully, I can share new information with you that you might not have seen yet. A Michigan town has passed a resolution declaring themselves to be a Second Amendment sanctuary, and they intend to back that resolution up by force if needed. Holton Township, Michigan, passed the resolution on Tuesday night and are creating a volunteer militia in the town that can interpose itself against the enforcement of illegal, unconstitutional gun control, recently approved by the far-left Democrat legislator and governor. The township is enacting these policies because they feel they are necessary for the security and rights of Holton Township residents. The people of Holton Township, through their duly elected members of the Holton Township Board, hereby designate Holton Township as a Second Amendment sanctuary in order to preserve for the people of, on, and in Holton Township the inalienable rights guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States of America, the resolution states. Yes, guaranteed, but not granted by that Constitution, of course. Those Inalienable rights were granted by God, someone outside of man. So the Constitution actually doesn't give us our rights. When we were born with those rights because of intelligent design. So this just came out January 13th. Democrats bring bill to prohibit armed citizen militias. Now, why are they doing this? Of course, they know that more and more people are becoming aware of how corrupt our big government is, state and federal. And so how do you go up against such a force? Localization. So Nuevo County, you take care of Nuevo County and make sure that nothing unconstitutional happens in Nuevo County, so on and so forth. They don't want that, of course. So the Democrat lawmakers are advancing legislation intended to prevent privately organized paramilitary and militia group activities within the U.S. So a direct attack, once again, on the Second Amendment. Introduced by Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts and Rep. Jamie Raskin of MD. I'm sorry, I should know that. What is that? On Thursday. Is that? Yeah, let me know. The bill, dubbed the Preventing Private Paramilitary Activity Act, would prohibit privately organized groups from publicly patrolling, drilling, or engaging in harmful or deadly paramilitary techniques, interfering with or interrupting government proceedings, or interfering with the exercise of someone else's constitutional rights, according to Mr. Markey. Their bill defines a private paramilitary organization as any group of 3 or more persons associating under a command structure for the purpose of functioning in public or training to function in public as a combat support, law enforcement, or security services unit. So why is it that the government is the only one that can have police force or security services or anything like that? Why can't the citizens protect themselves? The bill states acting with or on behalf of such a private paramilitary organization while armed with a firearm, explosive, incendiary device, or other dangerous weapon, and engaging in patrolling, training, interfering with government or constitutional rights, or assuming the functions of law enforcement without official authority. Who gives police officers official authority? We, the people, are supposed to be giving it. So if we, the people, want to have a militia, we are allowed a regulated militia. Because if we don't trust your government, what do you do? But again, these people are afraid. Our big government is afraid that we are waking up and realizing just how corrupt they are and that we're going to do something about it. The question is, are we? And what do we do? If we can't just protect ourselves, create little groups to protect ourselves, then we're just supposed to trust them, even though they hate us. And every day they show us that they hate us in the news. The bill makes exceptions for members of the National Guard and other military reserve components. Of course, the government can protect themselves, but we, the people, can't protect ourselves from the government. State Guard forces and members of other federal or state organized groups to train in and apply paramilitary, law enforcement, and security service activity. The bill also allows for the organization of groups formed solely to conduct military reenactments, bona fide veterans organizations with no intent to engage in the aforementioned prohibited activities, and students in government or state-authorized educational institutions that teach military science. So again, government. They can have it, we can't. Even though, they're supposed to be working for us. Lawmakers bring bill in response to Capitol breach. Mr. Markey and Mr. Raskin introduced their legislation just days after the 3-year anniversary of the breach at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, a point they repeatedly referenced in a press release announcing the bill. So there you go. Again, problem, reaction, solution. They baited the people, the Trump supporters, into the Capitol, and they, if you see the footage, they really did start the fight. And now they're calling it a riot, by the way, in MSNBC and CNN. They're no longer calling it an insurrection. They're calling it a riot. So once again, they've been caught in lies, and they're backtracking a little bit, but still, we need to understand that this is what they do. If they don't outright lie, they withhold information. And the Speaker of the House, by the way, whatever his name is, the Republican Speaker of the House, he hasn't released all the footage. He's a liar. He's a traitor, just like the rest of them. Patrolling neighborhoods, impeding law enforcement, and storming the U.S. Capitol, private paramilitary groups like the Oath Keepers, the Three Percenters, and the Proud Boys are using political violence to intimidate our people and threaten democratic government and the rule of law. What rule of law? What rule of law? You tell me. Because they've been caught time and again doing illegal activities in the Capitol, and nothing happens to them. So what rule of law are we talking about? Our legislation makes the obvious but essential clarification that these domestic extremists' paramilitary operations are in no way protected by our Constitution. Well, again, a well-regulated militia is allowed, and oath keepers just mean they're keeping their oath to the Constitution. So if that is against the government, then our government is no longer enforcing or cares about our Constitution, which we know that, but it's just another way of them saying it. I don't know much about the Three Percenters, and the Proud Boys get a bad rap, and I'm not going to get into that. I don't know much about the Proud Boys or the Three Percenters, or really even the Oath Keepers, except I know for a fact Oath Keeper mean they're mostly veterans, and they want to keep their oath to protect the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And the reason I know that is because I want to do the same thing. I'm not part of the Oath Keepers. I'm not part of any group, but I can relate to their mission. Barron says, glad you're addressing this blatant crime by Witless, I'm pretty sure is what you meant, and the feds. Thanks. I wish more people were interested. I do too, because this is a direct attack on, once again, our constitutional rights, but on we the people. I really want people to understand that our government, again, they hate us and they don't want us to be able to do anything for ourselves. They want us to suck on the government teat so that we have to do everything they tell us. And so we do the opposite of what they want, right? We want to be self-reliant, and that way we don't have to get their jab or whatever. Patrolling neighborhoods, okay. Our legislation makes the obvious but essential clarification. Okay, though there's no R there, though rioters and demonstrators did not use firearms or other deadly weapons during the events of the Capitol. An insurrection without weapons, huh? During the events of the Capitol on January 6, 2021, many did use blunt objects and pepper spray in clashes with police officers that day. Yeah, the police officers had all the weapons. They were shooting things into the crowd to stir them up. Some individuals have also been charged for having firearms and other deadly weapons on their person while on Capitol grounds that day. In trials against members of the Oath Keepers and other defendants, prosecutors made note of members of the group moving through the crowds in an apparent practiced and organized fashion frequently described as a stack formation, as well as wearing tactical gear and using portable communication devices to stay in contact and coordinate their actions. Really quick side note, I heard Vivek Ramaswamy on day one would pardon all the January 6th individuals. Why didn't Trump do that? He had 2 weeks, he had 14 days to pardon everybody that was at the Capitol on January 6th. Why didn't he do it? And why isn't he saying that he would? If he did, let me know. But still, he was president for 14 days after that. It really bothers me. And he had access to all those camera recordings. And if he didn't, then how is he supposed to be our savior? I'm sorry. It really bothers me. And of course, the public-private partnership with Big Pharma, with Operation Warp Speed. I will continue to talk about it. It's one of the major things that I have against him. 3 years ago, white supremacists affiliated with paramilitary organizations stormed the U.S. Capitol, shattered windows, walls, and the families of 5 U.S. Capitol police officers. Wait, what? They stormed the U.S. Capitol, shattering windows, walls. They shattered the families of 5 U.S. Capitol police officers? Said Mr. Marquis. Yeah, I'm sorry. I messed up the quote, but I'm just confused at the wording. Private paramilitary actors, such as the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, pose a serious threat to democracy and the rule of law, and we must create new prohibitions on their unauthorized activities that interfere with the exercise of people's constitutional rights, like the constitutional right for a well-regulated militia. The forces of bigotry, hatred, and violent extremism must be stopped for the sake of our democracy. There's no democracy here. We're in a fascist society, guys. Let's just call a spade, okay? We're under fascism, and we have been for quite some time. Yeah, Obama definitely made deals with a public-private partnership, and that is fascism. Public-private partnership is fascism. That's real fascism. So there is no democracy. That's just buzzword. And we're supposed to be a republic anyway. Prior to the events of January 6, 2021, members of the Proud Boys had organized at conservative and right-leaning gatherings and demonstrations and clashed with violent counter-demonstrators, often members of the Antifa extremist group intent on disrupting those gatherings. Quick side note, Davos is happening right now. I'm sure you have all heard. I'm sure you've heard of Disease X2, which I'm going to discuss next week on Turn the Page with Janine. But the Antifa group, there is a group of Antifa individuals that are actually at Davos, and they say that the fascists are the far-right white populists. Those are the fascists. It's like, what world do you live in? A populist individual does not want public-private partnerships and big government and everything else. So they were wearing clown suits. They are clowns. Rebel News, check them out. They are actually on the ground in Davos, and they are the ones that get some good stuff on all those self-anointed elitist pricks that want to tell us how to live over here, while they go fly around in their jets. And yeah, I want to talk about NASA too, but that'll be tomorrow. Their new jet. Prior to the events of January 6, 2021, members of the Proud Boys had organized, okay, I already read that, sorry, other armed organizations and incidents. Following the death of George Floyd, a black man in Minneapolis police custody in 2020, many left-wing groups organized in support of Black Lives Matter movement and engaged in protests and riots throughout the summer of 2020, right when we're all supposed to be worried about a virus. At various demonstrations, members of these groups often clashed with police officers. For weeks, rioters also threw fireworks, incendiary devices, and rocks at federal officers guarding a federal courthouse in Portland, Oregon. During a political rally in support of President Donald Trump in Portland on August 29, 2020, Trump supporters were met with violent counter-protesters. Trump supporter Aaron Danielson was shot and killed while walking to a parking garage following the event. In an interview with Vice News while evading law enforcement, self-described Antifa activist Michael Reinhold described shooting Danielson while claiming he acted in self-defense. Reinhold was charged with murder, but was shot and killed during a confrontation with law enforcement officers attempting his arrest. Mr. Markey and Mr. Raskin made no mention of any left-leaning organizations while announcing their bill on Thursday. Mr. Raskin told the Washington Times the legislation was not written with a particular ideological viewpoint in mind. We all know, though, that they're calling the domestic terrorists individuals that want to be able to defend themselves and have self-reliance. So, again, another clear indication that our government is at war with the people. They're trying to enslave us, and they don't want us to know about it because that's the art of war, to do it as quietly as possible so that there is no fight. It's just too late. During the civil unrest in the summer of 2020, some armed groups organized to protect private property and looting and vandalism. That is what a well-regulated militia means. You can't trust the government to protect your neighborhood, then you have a right to protect your neighborhood. And the people in your neighborhood have that right. Several armed individuals organized to prevent property destruction at a gas station and used car lot in Kenosha, Wisconsin, amid rioting and arson in the city in August of 2020. It was during that incident that the individual had joined the armed organized group. Then 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse shot and killed 2 people and wounded a third. Mr. Rittenhouse was charged with murder but was acquitted after arguing he acted in self-defense. Individuals have also engaged in nonviolent protest events while exercising their right to carry firearms in public under relevant state and local laws. NTD News reached out for comment from Mr. Markey and Mr. Raskin with questions as to whether their legislation would impact organized groups of individuals guarding private property, participating in neighborhood watch groups, or attending nonviolent public demonstrations while armed. They did not respond by press time. Connie, hello, it's been a while. It has. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully you've been taking care of yourself. It has been quite a wild ride weather-wise here in Michigan. It's like -10, what it feels like outside now. So we had it warm for a while, but now it's freezing, below freezing. Sub-zero, they say. This week, U.S. Circuit Judge Florence Pan, an appointee of President Joe Biden, raised the hypothetical scenario of a president ordering the military to assassinate political rivals. NTD News asked Mr. Markey's office whether groups that organize and train to respond to that scenario and other hypothetical scenarios involving tyrannical government action would be punished under his proposed legislation. Now, real quick, I'm going to go down to the comments. Oh, unable to load comments at this time. That sucks because the comments were on fire. So I don't really like that they're being hidden or what have you. Connie, yep, we are still getting lake effect plus the cold. Yeah, winter's here. But hopefully it's short and sweet and we have a longer spring, because usually spring's like 2 weeks here in Michigan, which is dumb. So this is going to be saying the same thing, but this is Vice. I just wanted to go over and see how they twist it a little bit differently than that Zero Hedge article. Militias who like to spend their weekend training to overthrow the government could find themselves running afoul on federal law under new legislation proposed by House and Senate Thursday that seeks to curtail paramilitary activity. Yeah, neuter. They want to neuter militias. The Preventing Private Paramilitary Activity Act is being introduced by Senator Markey. The legislation would prohibit publicly patrolling, drilling, or engaging in harmful or deadly paramilitary activities. Let's see. The Capitol riots was the culmination of surging anti-government sentiment and paramilitary activities seen throughout 2020. That year, armed paramilitary groups swarmed government buildings to protest COVID-19 restrictions, plotted to kidnap Michigan's governor over those restrictions, conducted armed neighborhood patrols in response to racial justice protests, and killed law enforcement officers. Holy crap, Vice is such garbage. First of all, the fact that they're talking about the plot to kidnap Michigan governor, or, Whitmer, the witch, that has been debunked or what have you. No one was charged. It was a plot by the FBI. And problem, reaction, solution. Now our Lansing, the capital of Lansing, has barbed wire around it, just like the Washington, D.C. Capitol. And it has surveillance with AI technology, looking for guns at all times. And only the government officials with concealed carry can have weapons at the Capitol. So tons of things that happen to protect and secure the corrupt government, all because of a false kidnapping plot that, again, was set up by our FBI. They set up American citizens. So another indication our government is at war with us. This is fifth generation warfare. The modern paramilitary movement surged in the 1990s, galvanized by new federal gun laws and by armed FBI raids on extremist compounds such as Waco and Ruby Ridge. Oh, I can't believe they say this stuff. Waco was an atrocity, our government. The movement was waxed and waned in the decades since, and as the dust settled from the Capitol riot, many asked why these heavily armed, organized groups had seemingly been able to operate with impunity for so long. Gun rights organizations and anti-government groups have typically argued that paramilitary activity is constitutionally protected by the Second Amendment's language about a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. But constitutional experts that were paid off by the establishment hold that it is not protected. After the violent white supremacist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia in August 2017, a team with Georgetown's Law Institute for Constitutional Advocacy and Protection sought to examine the legality of the kind of brazen paramilitary activity on display that weekend. They found that all 50 states had some kind of laws on the books, but were rarely enforced. The team, led by Mary McCord, former acting assistant attorney general at the Department of Justice, really quick. They're really rarely enforced, but they're there so that when they want to enforce them, they can. I hate that. There should not. We have way too many laws. Government is way too big. We know this, but it drives me crazy. Why do we have laws that are rarely enforced? We should just be done with them. It's only so that they can use and abuse them whenever they feel like it. The team, led by Mary McCord, former acting assistant attorney general at the Department of Justice National Security Division, also found that the historic context of militia did not mean a private paramilitary group that was answerable only to themselves, but an armed group that predated the National Guard, was first established in the colonies in the 1600s, and was meant to be deployed at the behest of the governor. Additionally, McCord told The Trace in an interview 2 years ago, Supreme Court decisions in 1886 and 2008 found that the Second Amendment did not prohibit states from banning private paramilitary groups. Our legislation makes the obvious but essential clarification that these domestic extremist paramilitary operations are in no way protected by our Constitution, says Raskin. How the proposed legislation is received by hardline conservatives in Congress and by Trump voters. How about just independent individuals, people that don't believe in the political theater, but do believe in unalienable rights and to be able to protect themselves? This is, again, they just group these people. I wouldn't even say I'm conservative. I would say libertarian, and sometimes I think ANCAP, which is anarcho-capitalism, but could human beings actually govern themselves? Because anarchy is just that. I govern myself, you govern yourself, we work together because we know that's the right thing to do. We're not there right now, obviously, but in a perfect world, that would be best, right? No government. I don't need someone else telling me how to live, what to do, so on and so forth. But I go back and forth, like I said. I teeter. Libertarian, teeny, tiny government. Certain specific things, perhaps we have a government, a little central planning. I don't know. A recent poll found that a quarter of American voters believe the baseless Fedsurrection conspiracy theory that the FBI instigated the Capitol attack. I like how they said baseless. Okay. These grievances and conspiracies have established a false narrative that the Biden administration is hell-bent on persecuting its ideological or political opponents. That's true. But it's not just Biden, it's the government versus the people. That's what I have for that. Now we're going to get into redistricting, and this is tied in with migrants, okay? And I actually have a bombshell admission from someone in New York about exactly why they want migrants to come to their state. Court orders Michigan Redistricting Commission to publish state house maps by February 2nd. I love how all this redistricting stuff happens the election year. Did it not happen the last election year? Does that not seem like it's cheating? Like, I don't like how all this is going on. Michigan's Redistricting Commission must redraw Metro Detroit State House districts ruled unconstitutional by early February. A 3-judge panel ordered Monday. Oh, that was poorly worded. The order comes as the candidate filing deadline for the August primary election for the House looms, and the panel aims to have new maps in place in time. The panel said it plans to issue a more detailed scheduling order soon, but for now, it said the commission must publish its proposed redrawn state house maps and put them forward for public comment by February 2nd. Late last year, the panel ruled that 13 state legislative districts, 7 in the state House and 6 in the state Senate, violate the U.S. Constitution because Michigan's Redistricting Commission drew them based on race. The group of Metro Detroit voters who sued the commission in the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Michigan also alleged that the commission violated the Federal Voting Rights Act by drawing maps that diminish Black voters' opportunity to elect their preferred candidates. The court did not weigh in on alleged voting rights act violations. Now, real quick, this is Detroit Free Press, Clara Hendrickson. So I can't say whether this has any kind of bias in it. I have not dove deep into this redistricting stuff because, again, it seems like it's all just political theater to cheat. They're going to cheat however they want. I am a firm believer presidents and our governor were selected, not elected. But this is still important because redistricting, and again, migrants. I read one article that said we're supposed to get 10,000 migrants this year. 10,000 more. The last year we got 2,500. The year before that we got 1,600. So the migrant push will also affect this redistricting. So it's important in the theater, it's important to understand what's going on. The panel said that the Redistricting Commission is unlikely to succeed in arguing that drawing district lines based on race was necessary in Detroit in order to comply with the Voting Rights Act. The panel called that view implausible because the commission didn't have the necessary election data to show how Black preferred candidates would fare in Democratic primary contests in the majority Black city. Hey, by the way, thank you guys over there in Rumble and Pop-O-Matic, Maryland. That's what MD is. So I'm way late on that, but thank you, Maryland. I appreciate that. I'm going to remember it. There's a lot of M's in America. Connie says they cheat with abandon. They either plan to replace us or whip out our vote. Absolutely. And so, yeah. What do we do? Continue spreading awareness. That's the only answer I have. And continue loving your neighbor. One of the judges on the panel, U.S. Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals Judge Raymond Kethledge, raised concerns during a court hearing last Friday that special elections would deny any voters drawn out of the invalidated districts a chance to vote for their senator that will represent them. The next Michigan Senate elections will take place in 2026. The panel was silent Monday on what role a potential court-appointed special master could play in the redrawing process. Judges previously floated the possibility a court-appointed special master could draw new districts at the same time. Michigan citizen-led Redistricting Commission attempts to redraw the lines. So, a federal 3-judge panel ruled 7 House of Representative voting districts that run through Detroit unconstitutional. Invalidated district. The panel issued an order barring their use in future elections as currently drawn. So, voting districts that run through Detroit unconstitutional. So, this is just Michigan braces for 42% increase. So if it's only a 42% increase and last year was 2,600, then that means we'd be what? I'm not very good at math. I would admit it every time. What, 4,000? So perhaps the one article I read that said 10,000 was being melodramatic. This year, over 2,500 refugees from different parts of the world came to Michigan. State officials project the number to climb 42% next year, according to the Department of State Refugee Reception. Now, of course, this came out, December 29th of last year. Officials with Samaratis, a local nonprofit helping refugees in Kalamazoo, said it's been a challenging time to keep up with the demand of refugees. Refugees, right. Illegal immigrants are coming into Michigan from Syria, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Iraq, according to the nonprofit. Now, if they are coming from the Republic of Congo, it's because of this push, this EV push, that has created a slave trade, once again, over in this Republic of Congo. And the United Nations was over there. They just raped and pillaged, literally. 9 United Nations members got charged with sexual assault. Probably going to get dinged for saying those words. But I don't care. I'm not going to censor my words. Democrat Republic of Congo has atrocities occurring over there, and it's because of lithium mining. cobalt mining for the electric vehicle push. So that they might be refugees, but again, it's our fault. It's our influence over there. We should just be leaving countries alone, if not helping them for real. But Dragonfly says one of the kids that was let off was a former teacher's son in Clarkson, Michigan. I'll have to look into that. Of approved refugee arrivals, 36% from Syria, 30% from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Michigan has and 7% from Iraq, which we've been in Iraq for 20 years. It's ridiculous. Michigan has always been a haven for refugees and immigrants, said Kelly Dobner, the Samaritas Chief Advancement and Strategy Officer. Unprecedented numbers of refugees are fleeing their home countries to escape danger and hardships. Families who are coming into our care are coming from unimaginable situations, people that are escaping religious persecution, who are escaping war-torn nations, or slave trade because of electric vehicles and the push from the United Nations and the World Economic Forum. Housing has become the largest hurdle as interest rates increase and affordable housing decreases across Kalamazoo. That is a challenge, having enough inventory, and with numbers climbing, that does pose an even bigger concern. This also helps push the mixed-use development and the multimodal transportation and all of that smart city stuff. This is going to help that because, of course, there's already a shortage of housing, and there's going to be even larger, so we need government housing, tenement. It's going to be new tenement housing. It's just like it was back in 100 years ago. The United States government provides $1,100 to refugees upon arrival. Wow. You mean the United States American taxpayer provides $1,100 to refugees? I would love a boost, an $1,100 boost. I would love that. However, over the past year, Samaritas has restored to temporarily placing some refugees in hotels. I'm sure you guys have heard about this. And now schools, too. In New York City, there are schools that are going remote so that the school can be filled with illegal immigrants, migrants. That's to build a life upon. It becomes a challenge if you think about rent and the low inventory of affordable housing. That could be 1 month of rent. No. $1,100, to be fair, because of inflation, because of money printing, inflating the money supply. $1,100 doesn't do jack shit. Doesn't. Next year, I still would like the boost, but you're not going to be able to live off of $1,100 anymore. Next year, the state projects 3,675 new arrivals, according to the Department of State Refugee Reception. In 2023, 150 came to Samaritas for assistance with food, shelter, employment, transportation, and medical services. Dobner is anticipating record numbers in 2024. Approximately 220. So, one more, climate havens like Michigan could start prep now for the future. For future migrants. Let's see, where is that book? Here it is. I am way behind on my reading, but I'm still going to say this move by this guy right here. Don't buy this book, by the way, but this guy works for Klaus Schwab. He's a planner for Klaus Schwab, and he says Michigan is the place to be by 2050. So that's what they're talking about. They get it from the globalists, the World Economic Forum, self-anointed assholes, elitists. As climate change continues to intensify and bring more frequent catastrophes, you mean as geoengineering creates frequent catastrophes in order for the problem reaction solution to take place? If you don't know about geoengineering, I am going to do a video soon. I have so much that I want to talk about, but I think it's important because the United Nations has a new program on geoengineering called United Nations Atmosphere 1, because they want one government and one world currency, one atmosphere committee. Experts argue regions dubbed climate havens like Michigan should begin to prepare now for what can be expected to be a future wave of incoming climate migrants. Housing industry researchers with national nonprofit enterprise community partners studied the phenomenon of climate migration and the expected impacts on communities where people relocate. Experts argue that if climate haven communities continue to ignore the phenomenon of climate migration, it will only exacerbate the strain and perhaps even heighten conflicts when climate migrants do begin to arrive in greater numbers. So right now we have a mass exodus because we're taxed to holy hell in Michigan, and people don't like that. So if you really want people to come to Michigan, lower taxes, period. No central government like we have, lower the taxes, free market. That's how you get people to come to this state. Now our government is actually bribing people. Our taxpayer dollars that they stole from us is being handed out. Here, please move to Michigan, bribing. They're not just bribing companies, they're trying to bribe people. It drives me crazy. So we all need to say no to their taxes, to their plans. It's all we have to do. No. I know about what you want to do, and I say no. I do not comply. It's a warning that can be difficult to sell in Michigan, where the statewide population is overall in decline, even as the number of those living in the northern reaches of the state continue to grow. But scientists say Americans are likely to relocate in coming decades as the more chronic effects of climate change make their homes and livelihood untenable. And places these folks are apt to end up should get ready starting now. Again, though, this isn't organic, okay? This is controlled. They are manipulating us in all these different ways to corral us into where they want us to be. I don't know where my mega regions book is. I've been reading it. It's so interesting. But yes, mega regions 2050. Great Lakes mega region will be the largest by 2050. And that is by design. It is in our Department of Transportation for the United States. They have picked up this plan, the mega regions 2050 plan. So this is a nation plan, a national plan. Doesn't seem very American to me. It's not free market. Rachel Drew is a senior research director with a nonprofit that published a policy brief about this issue this year, which is basically a handbook for how so-called climate havens and other potential receiving communities can prepare for that future expected influx of newcomers. There are these big cataclysmic events that catch the attention around the news and so forth, but there are just as many, if not more, people who deal with chronic flooding, who deal with chronic drought, or maybe they've been hit by just too many of these cataclysmic disasters, one after the other after the other. And it either makes it untenable for them to continue to stay there and live the life they want, or they just get, fed up with it, so that it's a lot harder to track, Drew said. Yet climate scientists contend these types of climate migrants are going to happen within the United States. Drew said, that's why they wrote the how-to guide for haven communities. The report lays out how places where migrants are expected to settle can prepare for these future climate migrations. First, communities with a lower risk of climate-related impacts must self-assess their potential to grow because of climate migrants, and then leverage existing resources like federal resiliency and housing grant dollars. Resiliency, that is another key word. Whenever you're looking, which, by the way, every single one of you should look at your closest city's master plan. And in it, look for things like multimodal transportation, because that means anything but private cars. Look for the word resilience, because, again, it's anything but private property. And it's all about building code and manipulating the building code in order to make an all-electric world that they can control remotely. So I actually am going to do a Substack article specifically on how you can go through your master plan and look for certain keywords so that you understand exactly how they are implementing a 15-minute city agenda in your city, because it is happening everywhere. Over in Britain, it's called the ULEZ, the ultra low emission zone, but here we got congestion zone. So it's something that I'm keeping up with. They try to cover up their true motives using language, but I'm on to them. So I find it fascinating, these central plans. What they want for us is, again, dystopian. For us, it's perfect for them. Communities should begin to manage the expectations of current residents, plus figure out how to help newcomers find housing, medical care, education, and more before they arrive. The brief contends. Drew said, for example, housing markets can be quite different from place to place, and climate migrants may not have the wherewithal to find an apartment and be ready for local expectations, like typical security deposits or required references. This is also perfect too because these migrants will accept whatever, meaning they'll accept AI facial recognition in their home to get in and out, basically like China. That's where we're going. They're trying to get us to be just like China. Not everybody comes with that knowledge and with that ability to just, drop right in and instantly become part of the fabric of their new community. The group recommends setting up a centralized way for migrants to access various services in their new communities. Of course, centralization is the name of this game. They need to be able to find a place to live and be able to get their kids into school and so forth and find a job. One thing we didn't expect to hear, but heard consistently, kind of across all of the different areas that we were looking at, was the issue of transportation. How climate migrants often arrive without a private vehicle or have lost it in the event or are just not used to navigating whatever the transportation system is of their receiving community. Once again, it's not equitable. You have a private vehicle and all these individuals don't. That's not equity, baby. I mean, I hope you can see where this is going, man. It is really about private property. Researchers based their report on 3 climate migration case studies. Hurricane Katrina in 2005 led to New Orleans residents relocating to Houston, Texas. But was it because of the hurricane or was it because of corrupt government and the levees not being updated and kept and maintained? So who wants to live in a corrupt government, right? Why do you think everyone's leaving Michigan? Much better to go to Texas where you allegedly have more freedom. Now, I will say this. The Republican or the red states are absolutely implementing UN Agenda 21, but they know that the people that want to live in those states think differently than the people that want to live in places like California. And so they implement the plan a little different so that it's, again, hidden. That is the art of war. Hurricane Maria in 2017 led to Puerto Rico residents arriving in Central Florida and the Louisiana coastal towns Terrebonne and I have a French background, but I should learn French. I don't know. It's a beautiful language. Sorry, I'm not even going to try to butcher that parish name. With the planned relocation of their entire communities because of the sea level rise. Again, these billionaires are buying land right on the ocean. They absolutely know that there's not going to be any sea level rise. It's all a lie. But you know what it does? Insurance companies now in Florida, they're basically non-existent. So if your house gets destroyed in Florida, you better be rich. Drew said that although it's difficult to predict where the expectedly millions of relocating Americans will go in the coming decades, there are advantages for places being ready ahead of time. Just start planning. Just start looking at these issues because we can't predict where the next disaster will hit, and we can't predict where these folks are going to relocate. But there are going to be disasters. There are going to be folks who need to relocate, and the communities that are better prepared for this will have better experience with it. Leaders in Michigan's largest cities are already thinking about this future eventuality. Jack Akinlosoda is Detroit's Sustainability Officer Director. And he said the first way the city can prepare to be a haven for the future climate migrants is by solving climate problems that exist today. On the front end, for me, the big thing I'm focused on is how do we solve climate issues for people who currently live here? He said repetitive power outages, which, by the way, we've had 3 in the last week. We have the most corrupt piece of crap power company besides Texas, and it's because it's centralized once again. Monopolies created by the government because of too much regulation, and so consumers' energy has no competition. And so what do they care if I'm out of power 3 times in a week? They don't. They're corrupt, and they get tons of our money. We subsidize the crap out of them. It's all such a corrupt system. So corrupt. That doesn't mean there isn't a mind to that future. He's already doing one of the recommended steps in Enterprise's report on receiving communities getting prepared, bolstering coordination among the community's key players. By working on today's climate problems with community leaders, connections will develop with people and groups most likely to respond when new climate issues arise, like a major influx of climate migrants. There's so much to be done on the front end to try to mitigate climate disasters, generally in Detroit, doing our part in the city to try to mitigate the certain climate disasters that might happen as a result of our climate going up more than 1.5 degrees. Speculation, assumption. We are changing our whole way of life all around the world on speculations and assumptions. One article I read on New Scientist said that we're in 2024, we're going to have a shortage of electricity because of our reliance on gas. Not because we're being forced to switch over to wind and solar. No, and they're shutting down hydro. No. It's because we're too reliant on gas. I'm sorry, this stuff ticks me off, and I swore more today in this video than I wanted to, but I'm so tired. I'm so tired of this. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer endorses a similar approach to the state becoming a haven, of course, because she sold us out to Davos. That's why she got selected in 2022, even after being a tyrant all through COVID. Because she sold us out. She said it's critical to focus on a high quality of life, lower cost of living, and protecting natural resources. We know that people are going to migrate because of climate. We already see it in parts of the country that people are losing access to water. We see fires raging. We see climate event after climate event. And that's why it's so important that, number one, we do our part to mitigate our impact on climate, Whitmer said in mid-August during a tour. But also, we build up the foundational things to support our current population and a growing population. Our goal is to just strategically grow our population in the immediate, knowing that ultimately we will be one of these states where people are seeking refuge. Right. So now we get into the good stuff. Here's some juicy tidbits here. Migrant crisis motive revealed. Democratic Rep. Clark is running for re-election this year in New York's 9th District to finish the job of utterly destroying New York. Utterly destroying it. To achieve her goal of ruining a once great city, Clark is demanding more illegal migrants. Clark actually admitted that the Democrats need more migrants to overrun their cities and states for redistricting purposes. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. We have a diaspora that can, I've never heard of that word, so I'm sorry, I don't even know what it means, that can absorb a significant number of these migrants, said Clark, who has served on the House Committee on Homeland Security. Another sham, Homeland Security. When I hear colleagues talk about, the doors of the inn being closed, no room at the inn, I'm saying I need more people in my district just for redistricting purposes. Let's hear her say it. Let's do this. Oh,
we have.
Let me rewind, make sure everything's up. Can I do this? There we go.
I'm from Brooklyn, New York. We have a diaspora that can absorb a significant number of these migrants. And when I hear colleagues talk about, the doors of the inn being closed, no room in the inn, I'm saying, I need more people in my district, but just for redistricting purposes. And those members could clearly fit here. I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
Oh boy. It's stunning. She said the quiet part out loud. They're doing it quite often. And is it because they don't know that they shouldn't be thinking like this? Or is it because they're so close to their plans they don't care that they're just being open? Or is it this is the time of revelations? And so the truth will come out and is coming out, seeping out. I mean, because this is what I think of. If you had putty in your hand and you squeeze, it's going to ooze. Doesn't matter if you try to squeeze the truth so that it's non-existent. It's going to just come oozing out. You cannot stop it. Now, redrawn districts is a common tactic used by the right and left. However, dismantling the Constitution to allow non-citizens to enter the country and vote is not. Watch below as the federal government blames the state government. We will watch that right now. Let's do it. I haven't seen this one yet. Let's see what it says. You know what, though? I have to keep it like this.
First, a whole high school in New York is having remote classes today because the building was needed to house people who came into this country illegally. So what is the president's priority in this case? Is it the migrants or is it the students?
So let me just clear this up a little bit. So yesterday, New York City informed us that as a precaution, they would temporarily relocate migrants staying at Floyd Bennett Field to a nearby high school. As of this morning, all migrants have returned to the facility at Floyd Bennett Field. And so anything specific as to the program and what decided to do and all of the specifics to that, I would certainly refer you to New York City for any additional questions.
But if a working parent had to call out to stay home with their kid today, isn't this Biden immigration policy literally taking money out of people's pockets?
So let me just say, I'm going to actually go back to your first question for a second, because I think I do need to address that, which is, when it comes to education, migrants, the economy, the president deals with multiple issues all at once. That is his job. There are multiple things happening all at once. And as it relates to this particular question that you're asking me about in New York City, that is something that New York City needs to answers to. That is a process that they took, so they have to answer to that. And as it relates to migrants and what's happening at the border, look, the president has taken this issue very seriously by making sure that on his first day, which is almost 3 years, it'll be a couple weeks, it'll be 3 years ago that he put forward a comprehensive immigration legislation to deal with what's happening with the immigration process, obviously, and also the border. And this is an issue that's been going on for decades. The system has been broken for decades. And the president is the one who has taken action to deal with this while.
Whatever. Actions speak louder than words. We all know that. So, yeah. Migrants. If you don't know, I've talked about it a couple times. The United Nations is absolutely involved in funneling people up. They give maps to individuals and how to go from South America up to the border and where to enter into America. And the United Nations is doing, if you go to muckraker.com, obviously a fellow muckraker, it's not my website. This individual is actually down there by the border in South America and Mexico, and he is reporting on these individuals having United Nations cards with money that gets put on it every month and maps to get here. So it's by design. That's what I'm saying. This is a multi-prong attack against America to destroy it from within. That's the only way you could destroy America, is from within. Republican New York City Councilwoman explained the situation in further detail. Congressional seats are allocated by population. Higher population states get more congressional seats and therefore more political power in Washington. Blue states have been losing seats as people flee progressive policies, continued Palladino. We're set to possibly lose 3 seats by 2030 in New York. These allocations are determined by census-calculated raw population, including illegals. See how that works? Now, real quick, Zero Hedge actually had a live debate with Alex Jones and Glenn Greenwald. I should know all of them, versus like Destiny and these twins. I should know their name. It was only their second live debate, and you could find it. I recommend watching it, although sometimes it's hard. Alex Jones just keeps yelling sometimes, and Destiny is an idiot. But the twins actually at first said that illegal immigrants cannot vote in the state of California. And then within 3 minutes, he turns around and says they can't vote federally. So they can vote in the state. So there are people that are not citizens of this country that are voting. So what does your vote really mean? I don't think it means anything, but so many people, especially boomers, I love boomers, but they always say to me, you don't vote, then you don't get to say anything about it. If I say I want to vote libertarian, though, they say that's a waste of a vote. So it's like, screw your whole system, okay? I don't like it. If I can't vote for who I want, it's a waste of a vote. Then the whole system is screwed. It doesn't work. The system doesn't work. If I can't vote for who I want, it's a waste. And I also don't like that. I'm a millennial. I've never seen anybody but a Republican and a Democrat debate. I want to see Green Party, Independent, Republican, Democrat, all on the stage. Libertarian. All of them. And I want them to tell me what they think on each policy that I care about. Why don't we get that in America? Clark is from Brooklyn, where children were just expelled from school to make room for illegal migrants. Clark was responsible for passing the Dream and Promise Act, legislation that provided 2.5 million illegal migrants or dreamers temporary residence in America and an easy path to citizenship. The ploy to infiltrate America with illegal migrants began years ago. At first, they said those wishing to come here were simply dreamers, looking for a better life, similar to most of our ancestors. However, they were not following the typical protocol to enter the country. Then, left politicians told migrants that they were welcome in their cities and would declare sanctuary there. Naturally, countless people fled their socialistic hellholes for America, where the government then decided they were not going to issue work permits but force them to become dependent on government aid. Soon, they will be provided with a right to vote, and certainly they will vote for the people who are enabling their new lives. Right? And again, they will be dependent on government aid, which is exactly what our government wants. So, we're going to switch it up a bit. Michigan makes the list of anti-free speech states. No surprise there. Again, when you have central planners, they don't want you to talk about things they don't want you to talk about. They want to censor for your own good. They're smarter, okay? They know better. They know what information you should have and what information you shouldn't. Michigan appears on a new list of anti-free speech states compiled by the prominent George Washington University law professor. Jonathan Turley's end-of-the-year list of anti-free speech state includes states that signed an amicus brief supporting the Biden administration's position in Missouri versus Biden, a case currently before the Supreme Court. The administration is defending its past action to combat harmful content and misleading information on the internet, much of which relates to policies on COVID-19 lockdowns and vaccination mandates. Michigan made Turley's definitive list by being one of those states. Yes, and again, the crackdown on misinformation, basically anything the establishment doesn't like, is going to start in earnest in February. February 1st, Google is going to start really cracking down on people like myself who like to talk about news and big events that are happening. So, current events. So, I think that's going to push me to Rumble even more, honestly, because so far I will say that the growth on Rumble has been like 10 times faster than the growth on YouTube. I really feel like YouTube doesn't like what I talk about or how I talk about it. And I wouldn't say shadow banned, but I just feel like they're not promoting me at all in search or what have you. So whatever that's called, I don't like it. Michigan leaders also took an unprecedented anti-free speech position. I don't like it, not just because it's me that's trying to share information with y'all, but it's because it's offensive to think that we can't think for ourselves and filter information for ourselves on what's true and what's not. Somebody else is supposed to do that for us. I don't think so. I don't trust anybody else to think for me, to see the information and filter the information for me. I trust myself. That's it. So, and bad ideas should see the light of day. That's how disease gets eliminated. It's not by hiding it in the dark. It's by putting it out in the sun. Michigan leaders also took an unprecedented anti-free speech position in a 2020 state executive order, now rescinded, that required retail stores to refrain from advertising or promotion of goods that are not groceries, medical supplies, or items that are necessary to maintain the safety, sanitation, and basic operation of residences. According to Turley, for years we have discussed the alarming shift in Democratic Party on free speech, with candidates running on pledges to censor opposing views and politicians supporting blacklisting and censorship on social media. Many citizens oppose such efforts to restrict their rights under the First Amendment, but are unaware of the work of their representatives to limit free speech. Now, a filing in the Supreme Court supporting censorship efforts by the Biden admin has supplied a handy list of the anti-free speech states for citizens. Recent efforts by government to step up their censorship activities are not confined to Democratic administrations, of course not. Republican-led states have also taken action that raise potentially troubling free speech concerns. Once again, I don't agree with masking, but I do not agree with Florida trying to make it illegal for businesses to require masks. It's my business. If I want to be detrimental to my own business by requiring masks, it's my business. The government should not be involved. And free market will reign. If you don't like wearing a mask, don't go there. And we'll see how much business that business would get. But once again, here in Michigan, Governor Snyder was before Whitmer, and he very much helped promote the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals in Michigan and everything else with the globalists. So it's not just Democrats. Republicans and Democrats, it's basically establishment. They want to keep power, of course. They have tons, and they don't want to let it go. So now it's really not Democrats versus Republicans. It's establishment versus anti-establishment. Republican-led states have also taken action. Okay, in the case of Missouri versus Biden, the Attorney General of Missouri and Louisiana, along with several private citizens, claimed that numerous federal officials coerced social media platforms into censoring online postings in violation of the First Amendment. The private citizens who brought the lawsuit include a group of doctors and activists who criticized the lockdowns and vaccine mandates. Once again, if there were no censorship, there would have been so many more people that would not have gotten the mRNA technology. I don't even want to call it a vaccine because it's not. It is new technology, gene therapy, that they have coerced people into. And if these doctors, like Peter McCullough, were allowed to be heard on mainstream sources, then we would have way less people right now injured by that technology. But alas, censorship occurred and people did not hear the other side. And when people like me that did get to hear it, because I know how to dive into the internet, when I tried to tell people, of course, I was a crazy conspiracy theorist. It drives me crazy because I could, and I tried to give all of the information. You don't have to believe me. I'll show you. And what they say is, oh, it's this doctor versus that doctor. But don't you want to hear what that other doctor says? Like, why don't you want to hear what they have to say and think for yourself? Why are you so willing to let the freaking mainstream media tell you how to think? The district court said the federal government used meetings, emails, phone calls, follow-up meetings, and the power of the government to pressure social media platforms to change their policies and to suppress free speech. This is public-private partnerships. And really, tech companies are bigger and more powerful than our government. Accordingly, the district court found that the plaintiffs have, and really quick, that is only because of government regulation allowing for monopolies to be formed. In a free market capitalist society, monopolies don't exist because you have competition. You don't have so many barriers to entry. I am 100% into Austrian economic school of thought. That's where my head's at. That's where we need to go. Accordingly, the district court found that the plaintiffs have proven a likelihood that they would win at trial and impose an injunction against the federal government to prevent further conduct that may violate free speech rights of the plaintiffs and others. It wrote the case arguably involves the most massive attack against free speech in the United States history. A federal appeals court overruled the trial court on some points, but found the plaintiffs' rights likely were violated by the ways that White House officials, the Surgeon General, the Center for Disease Control, and the FBI reached out and encouraged the private social media companies to block accounts of critics of COVID-19 lockdown and vaccine policies. The case is currently on appeal in the U.S. Supreme Court, which is where 23 states filed their amicus brief. Other states that signed on to the brief were Arizona, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, no surprise there, Illinois, no surprise there either, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Nevada. Okay, you get the picture. There's a lot. Nevada has a master plan. Las Vegas, 100% going towards that 15-minute city, multimodal, no private cars, by the way. I just looked into it last night. So if you want to look into it for yourself, again, master plans, that's where you begin for whatever city that you live near. The brief filed by Michigan and the other states lauds past efforts of these states to combat harmful content on the internet and to protect the public from misleading information through partnerships with social media companies, Turley notes. By the way, I lived in Nevada for a while. I loved Vegas. Before COVID, Vegas was awesome. I lived in North Vegas, but I would not want to live there now, with water being the key resource this decade that the United Nations wants to try to inventory and control. And obviously Las Vegas not having any water, I would not want to live there for that reason. It would be really awful to have a water shortage. The district court was correct in its assessment. Unrelenting pressure from certain government officials likely had the intended result of suppressing millions of protected free speech postings by American citizens. Michigan is siding with the federal government in support of governmental powers to censor online content on hot-button policy subjects like the COVID-19 lockdowns. Of course, because Whitmer, again, was a tyrant. She locked us down way longer and way worse than any other governor. Well, maybe not any, but most. And she doesn't want us to say that she's a tyrant. In practice, the line seems very blurry between harmful content and information that government officials decide is politically inconvenient. Exactly. Michigan is now squarely on the side of expansive powers for governments to pressure social media companies into censoring what the government does not want the public to see or know. But again, that's tyranny, right? When the emperor has no clothes, we got to point it out. Now, this is Klaus Schwab saying we don't even need elections. So just to prove what this is really all about, they know better. The AI knows better in this case.
But then the next step could be to go into a prescriptive mode, which means you do not even have to have elections anymore, because you can already predict, and afterwards you can say, why do we need elections? Because we know what the result will be. Can you imagine such a world? But then the next step could
you imagine? I like that. Yeah, Dangerous Man is right. Let me see really quick while I'm here. Oh yeah, this individual lived in China when the regime change happened and wrote a book, which I have somewhere back here, but I highly recommend if you do the Twitter game. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot says Klaus Schwabstica. Yes, and if you do look into Klaus Schwab and his parentage, then you know they're all into eugenics too. If you want a really good report, Corey'sDigs.com, she talks about eugenics and she's on point, okay? This whole vaccination system is about eugenics too. But that's a side topic. What's happening? I'll read this really quick. How communism preys on the folly of human nature. The backbone of Mao's revolution was the Chinese peasants who believed that they would get free land and be made equal. Sound familiar? They indeed were able to confiscate the land from landlords and divided it equally among themselves through the brutal land reform from 1949 to 1952, which led to the death of more than 2 million landlords. But within a few years, new inequality emerged. Some people were doing better than others. Who would guess it? Who would guess that some people work harder, some things click, and some things don't? Not everybody's meant to be a farmer. No worries, there was a solution: collectivization, which is a disease that has spread to America. This time, the CCP will make everyone absolutely equal. Collective farming started as voluntary option. Guess who were the ones strongly supporting it? Those who did not do as well as their neighbors. Eventually, all peasants were forced to be collectivized into people's communes. The land and all means of production now belong to the people, aka the state. This is why I totally understand why communists think the way they think. First, though, it's because they don't know enough about economics. I agree with Hayek, who said that quote. I should quote him exactly, but I think if they really understood what they were saying, then they wouldn't be saying what they say. But I do know one communist in particular that was actually willing to speak with me. And I agree with his assessment on the issues, on the problem, and wanting the people to have more power than what they do. But the problem is, when everybody owns something, the state actually owns it, okay? They have control. So it's like the most centralized control that you could have, communism is. And so it's a good idea, but in practice, it doesn't work. And so we need to live in reality, okay? If your dream over and over just decimates tens of millions of people, you need a new dream. The result was 3 years of the Great Famine from 1959 to 1961, which killed up to 50 million peasants. The same thing happened in Russia, where the government stole the land from the farmers and gave it to people that didn't know how to farm, and millions of people died. And now we have in Germany what's going on, and a lot of the Eastern European countries, and just European countries in general, that they're not farming anymore. So if you haven't read Atlas Shrugged, it really is just like that. The producers of the world say, screw you. I'm done producing. It's too much. You have the world on your shoulders, and you shrug it off. Boom. That's what, I'm sorry for the spoiler, but Atlas Shrugged, it's still an amazing book, but that is really what Atlas Shrugged is about. The producers are tired of being stolen from. They're tired of their blood, sweat, and tears being unappreciated and taken. And can you blame them? I know I said they're doing exactly what the World Economic Forum and United Nations wants. They are not farming. That sucks. But I do understand the whole Atlas Shrugged mentality. Like, enough is enough, man. Enough is enough. So now we're switching up to the CCP Gotion really quick. Automation rate as high as 85% at the California plant. This is the Midwesterner. Kyle Olson on the 5th of January wrote this. You know, I'm going to take this off. I don't need it. So I have been saying from the beginning, ever since they said 2,500 jobs, for one, there's not going to be 2,500 jobs by 2030. And now they have until 2032, I believe, because it's gotten pushed back. I still think it's not going to be a go. I have faith that we're going to kick them out, okay? We're going to get our land back that we bribed them to buy. Really, though, it's our money. So it's like, to me, Gotion bought it with our money. So is it still not my land? Our land? You know what I mean? But anyway, I've been saying from the beginning, there's no way 2,350 jobs. No. Automation is real, and it's way more real in China. And since this is a Chinese company, they're absolutely going to implement it in their freaking factories. Gotion High-Tech, the Chinese Communist Party-linked battery maker, touted in a December 29th press release that its California plant is largely automated. Gotion High-Tech Fremont factory is located in Silicon Valley, USA, with a production capacity planned at 1 gigawatt per hour. It is Gotion's first battery pack production line in the US market with an automation rate as high as 85%. The Hefei China-based company said, while celebrating what it called its Made in the USA initiative. CCP Gotion said, "This is another important step for Gotion High Tech after laying out batteries and materials in Illinois and Michigan in the United States." CCP Gotion has not said what portion of planned Michigan operation will be automated. Well, again, if they can get away with 100%, they will. The whole point of all of this is a depopulation agenda. And so the reason why they want to do it now is because they have a replacement for you, which is automation, AI, machinery. Connie, I think they are getting so giddy because they see their plans progressing, so they speak from their trained minds. I guess I should go back. Barron says, Witless new migrant voters will all be down there south of M10 with the Flatlanders that tolerate it. There ain't nothing for them up here. We're going to break away and become free northern Michigan. Hell yeah. I like it. Great idea. We'll just split the state in half. Connie says, not to mention that many people are being laid off their jobs because of automation. Exactly. Yes, automation. This plan is very intricate. That's all I have to say. Corporate documents obtained exclusively by the Midwesterner last March revealed that the Chinese company and Michigan government is funding $715 million taxpayer dollars is a key vehicle for the work of the CCP. Yes, their whole Silk Road initiative is absolutely about economic development. That's how they put their foot in the door of whatever country they want. They don't invade with an army. They build economic development in whatever country. And then when the country says, I can't pay for the development that you did in these third world countries, they say, we own you. That's what China does. Now we own you. Every building we built, they're mine, they're ours. You know, that's how they work. They work differently than the United States. The United States, you know, we use the might makes right, which I of course, am completely against. In July of 2022, CCP Gotion published a 94-page document titled Articles of Association, essentially the equivalent of the American company's bylaws. The document found on Gotion's website lays out the company's governance structure and allegiance to the Constitution of the Communist Party of China. Yeah, so they get back into that. But the whole point of this was the automation aspect. Sticking with Gotion, letter to the editor. Well, you know what? Yes, this is the one. It's my community too. The personal decision behind choosing Mecosta County as the future site of Gotion Battery Components Facility, says Thelen. I am the youngest of 7 born on a Michigan farm to hardworking and loving parents. Our father worked hard as a butcher during the day and farmed 160 acres in his off time, but saved Sunday for our church activities and community service. This family devotion allowed my parents to purchase an inexpensive seasonal cottage on a lake in Mecosta County in 1966, where we could afford little else. Childhood on the farm ended when the local airport bought out surrounding properties, and we relocated to a small town. My parents made a happy new home for 5 years. Then my father was taken by congestive heart failure when I was a teenager. As devastating as that was, we had the cottage on Horsehead Lake, and it was a place I called my real home and dreamed of living there someday. After working many years as an automotive technician, I decided to live at the cottage and work through a self-funded bachelor's degree from Ferris State University, and later earned a master's in operation management. I met my wife in Big Rapids, and after graduation, we moved to Oakland County as there were no jobs nearby. Over the next 2 decades, I volunteered as a youth sports coach, the Pheasants Forever youth chairman, and elementary school science teacher, all while serving as the global director of project management at my company. We made up trips to the cottage at Horsehead Lake, a priority for family time together until the exciting day that we moved there permanently. In my career, I have traveled to 46 states in the U.S. and extensively overseas, but my home is Mecosta County. Again, this is Chuck Thelen, who brought in Gotion in secret. That's the biggest issue with the whole thing. It's going to bring regional change, but we don't get a regional say. That is a problem. If we would have been able to vote on it, though, they know that we would have said, no, we don't want an EV battery plant, whether it's Chinese or not, on the second largest river and the third largest aquifer in Michigan, the river I live on. I don't want my river poisoned. I don't want to be blighted out of this beautiful area to be corralled into a freaking smart city called Grand Rapids, because that is absolutely going the way of the smart city. When you see the shocking claims and salacious headlines, you should ask questions. Would I expose my beloved community to such outlandish claims of communist spies, environmental disaster, improper financing, forced home sales, air pollution, and other baseless rumors? Or are some political opportunists manipulating others with fear and hatred? Yeah. Again, I don't want you to be afraid. I just wanted to say, and I don't want anybody to be hated, but people need to be held accountable. Political opportunists manipulating, again, this is all bull. And there is another article that I'm going to share with you on Lori Brock, who has the farm that's right across from where the Gotion EV battery plant is supposed to be located. It's going to destroy her view and her farmland that she's worked for. Sorry about my dog. And she has a rebuttal to this whole article that we're going to get into. I have no personal financial gains to be made by placing the facility in one state or another. My salary has no dependence on choosing the Big Rapids area. And go away. We don't want it. Go away. Bring it somewhere else. Quite the opposite. I was denied my 2023 bonus due to strong disagreements with some upper management over my business strategy. Of course, we've caught Chuck Thelen in lies several times. So take this with a grain of salt. Ultimately, the board of directors agreed with my proposal to partner with Michigan, so we are moving forward without delay because it will benefit the county and the company. Michigan was chosen because, again, China, Russia, and America, and all of Europe, they're all working with the United Nations and with the World Economic Forum. So Xi Jinping shook hands with Klaus Schwab, and so did Whitmer. So really, they are partners in the global grand plan, the geopolitical master plan. So of course, we're a Chinese-friendly state. That's why they brought them here. My personal reward is helping thousands of people, and not just Chinese, but of course EV technology, which I am completely against, and I've talked about it a million times in a million videos. My personal reward is helping thousands of people who are stuck in an endless financial struggle. Soon, Gotion Inc. employees will be driving dependable cars to homes they own without the fear of unaffordable car repairs or crippling rent increases. What? Soon, Gotion employees will be driving dependable cars to homes they own without the fear of unaffordable car repairs or crippling. I mean, EV batteries cost like $50,000, so it's unaffordable car repair for every EV. I don't know. I started this project to help Michigan and our community. The great paying jobs created by the facility will positively transform our way of life while protecting the many reasons why we all love this area so much. People who still oppose the plant have every right to ask questions, but the small minority of people who continue to spread lies need to stop. It's torn our community apart, and it's time to heal once again. Love thy neighbor. I love how he says that. Love thy neighbor. If you loved your neighbor, you wouldn't have signed NDAs and secretly brought in an EV battery plant on our river. If you loved your neighbor, you wouldn't have been a sneaky son of a gun. Now let's see what Lori Brock has to say. Letter to the editor, a rebuttal to Chuck Thelen's letter to the editor. Chuck Thelen's recent soliloquy. Oh my gosh, I said it too before I started this. Soliloquy. There we go. In the Pioneer newspaper regarding Gotion was another perfect example of just how tone-deaf Thelen and the others who have attempted to push this project on a community who doesn't want it have been since the very beginning. Mr. Thelen tells a colorful tale in which he is the hero, even to the point of losing his annual bonus because of his disagreement with Gotion management. He then admonishes us to come together and love thy neighbor. Loving your neighbor should start with being honest with them. Mr. Thelen, your pious rhetoric is quite ironic, considering you have been lying to the community from the very beginning. From the NDAs, signed by the government officials attempting to conceal details about this project from the public, to the ever-shrinking wages of the alleged jobs Gotion would bring, to your lies about the ownership structure of being an international coalition when it's really owned by a Chinese firm whose CEO is a Chinese communist member, which you also have denied, even though it's in his own bio on the World Economic Forum website. Not to mention the lack of transparency on all the dangerous materials you plan to bring into our environment. Exactly. And how are they going to bring them in? Trucks. Allegedly, a train is involved because Chuck Thelen himself talked about a train. I don't know which train company or anything like that. I did talk about it in the past, but still, we're talking about moving all these materials that are gotten from slave trade, and lithium has been gotten from Argentina. The indigenous populations have been destroyed there. So the supply chain is awful. And those supplies from that awful supply chain are going to be coming here to our little area, our recreational area where people tube down this river. That's what we have here. Tons of recreation. And now we're going to have this huge, nasty EV plant. Then you have the audacity to claim that only a vocal minority are opposed to Gotion when every measurable metric shows otherwise. From the supermajority results of the recent recall election in Green Charter Township to all the surveys conducted by other local townships, every single metric shows clear opposition to this project. All the way up and down the river, we don't want it on our river. All it takes is an accident. We're not saying that they deliberately poison our river. But if an accident occurred, if the facility started on fire, everyone around the area would have to evacuate. It's a very dangerous possibility if an accident occurred. Contrary to what you claim to want for our community, this project has done nothing but tear us apart. And it's not just here in Michigan. Other communities are rejecting Gotion, like the folks in Manteno, Illinois, who are also organizing against you. But again, the Illinois governor was one of 3 governors that went to Davos last year and sold this out. So Whitmer, the Illinois governor, Pritzker or something like that, and then Georgian's governor, who is a Republican. Mr. Thelen, you dismiss all the concerns about Gotion's links to the CCP as conspiracy theories and claim that the language in the parent company's Articles of Association pledging allegiance to the CCP and to carry out party activities, a grassroots of the community, are boilerplate words, and Gotion really doesn't mean what they say in those documents. Sir, if you're naive enough to believe that, then you're likely also believe the balloon China flew over our military bases was just a weather balloon. Pardon us for not trusting the CCP given their history, behavior, and the harm they regularly threaten against our country. My heart truly bleeds for you that you didn't get your holiday bonus, but you'd like to earn a few extra dollars to make up for it. If you'd like to earn a few extra dollars to make up for it, I can always use an extra hand at my farm to shovel manure out of the horse stalls. You seem to have a gift when it comes to shoveling out manure. Lori Brock of Big Rapids. Thought that was a very excellent rebuttal, funny, and I appreciate it. I don't really appreciate Chuck Thelen. Chuck Thelen, real quick, has a friend, too. I'm sure you all know who this friend is. If I could find him. Here he is. FSU President Bill Pink, appointed to Michigan Council by Governor Whitmer. This came out last year. I don't know how I missed it. But Dr. Bill Pink is a very, very powerful man and well-connected, and he was one of the individuals that bombarded the Big Rapids Township and the Green Charter Township with the Gotion project Renaissance Zone. So without that Renaissance Zone approval, Gotion never would have happened. And this individual was very much involved. And Ferris State University brought in the NSA, who, was caught spying on us thanks to Edward Snowden. We know that. And then he brings in, it's one of the only colleges that has an AI program. So big things are happening at Ferris State University. And again, being right next to Gotion, I don't like it. Ferris State President Bill Pink was named to the Growing Michigan Together Council by Governor Whitmer on Thursday. The council, which was announced last month, is focused on how to grow the population. It's like, again, creating more and more business, more and more committees, more and more bureaucracy. It's really simple, dummy. Hey, Whitmer, you dummy. You want people to come to this state, lower taxes. It's really that easy. Businesses don't want barriers to entry. So get rid of the barriers to entry. Pretty easy. People will flock here because Michigan doesn't have a lot of crazy natural disasters. The biggest one we have is blizzards, which the cold is deadly if you don't have electricity. So this whole switch to solar and wind will make Michigan not so nice in that point. But otherwise, we don't have earthquakes. We don't have, we're not prone to fires because we have so much water. But with the geoengineering, if you go to geoengineeringwatch.com, where is it, .org? I think it's .com. But if you go there, you can find a video that talks about how the spraying of all these metals into the sky that's happening, solar geoengineering, dries the forest out. So if you want to know why fires are so bad and why our forests seem like they're dying, it's because they're spraying stuff in the sky and drying them out. So we don't have fires on average, but we might because of that geoengineering crap. And we don't have hurricanes, which is the worst. Mudslides, none of that. So in that way, Michigan is awesome. But we do have blizzards. So if we don't have heat, if you don't have electricity, that could be deadly. The Growing Michigan Together Council appointees will bring a diverse range of skills, experiences, and perspectives to the table, Whitmer said in a news release. Led by 4 work groups, the council will hold several meetings over the next few months, hearing from Michiganders firsthand. Pritzker, thank you, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. That is the Illinois governor that went to Davos and sold out their state. They will then collaborate and continue working towards presenting a comprehensive strategy to help anyone make it in Michigan. Pink will serve on the 28-member council as a co-chair of the higher education work group, along with Henry Ford College President Russell Cavalluna. In the news release, Pink said he is ready to take on the challenges of growing the state's population. I'm truly excited to represent Ferris State University while collaborating with some of the brightest and best people we have in Michigan, dedicated to ensuring a great future for our great state, Pink said in a news release. We know there's a lot of work ahead, but we also know Michigan's future is at stake, and we know how much that means to millions of Michiganders. Along with Pink, Ferris State alumnus and CEO of InvestUP, it was appointed to the council. That was Marty Fintony. And then there's this. The FSU President Bill Pink, appointed to the Right Place Inc. board, will serve as the vice chair treasurer. So he's just getting all kinds of appointments. Very connected. Ferris State University President Bill Pink was appointed to serve as the 2024 vice chair treasurer of the Right Place board of directors, according to the news released from the company. If you don't know, the Right Place is all about public-private partnerships. So a very fascist organization. I have been a member of the Right Place board for several years, dating back to my time as president of Grand Rapids Community College. I am honored to continue on that board in this leadership capacity. Effective economic development is vital to our state and to our region. I look forward to continuing to push for our side of the state to prosper through these efforts. Steve Downing, president and CEO of Context Corporation, was appointed to serve as chair, and that's pretty much it. So now, Ferris, designated a Center of Digital Forensic Academic Excellence. Ferris has become the first university in the country to be designated a center for digital forensic academic excellence by the Department of Defense Cybercrime Center and the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. Gogolin said, this, in addition to the NSA Center of Excellence previously obtained and National Science Foundation research funding, places the undergraduate and graduate information security and intelligence programs as one of the foremost leaders in the United States in cybersecurity. This certification is part of the D3's stated mission to encourage the study of cyber and digital forensic science at all education levels in the U.S. This educational partnership agreement, and others like it, is part of the DC3's effort to accomplish the mission. This agreement is designed to assist in the effort of bringing scientific, mathematical, and technological experience to educational institutions. 60-month agreement was signed this summer by Gogolin and Joshua Black, acting director of the Defense Cyber Investigations Training Academy. Gogolin will serve as Ferris's program manager. Ferris to create virtual students, an artificial intelligence program. Ferris State University will create two virtual students who will enroll and participate in lessons and activities through the Evolving Technology in the Artificial Intelligence program, which is exploring the development and learning how it can be used in the classroom. So even in the classroom, AI is going to replace people. Ferris State's Artificial Intelligence program is just one of 3 AI undergraduate programs in the nation. So Ferris State, once again, it's that connection, right? Bill Pink, though, was picked after the individual that was supposed to find a new president signed an NDA. So this was all planned. This is all connected and all planned in secret by central planners. Ferris State's intelligence program, it has close ties to industry and government partners, including the Department of Defense, the NSA, Department of Homeland Security, Amazon Web Services, and many Michigan companies. You see what I'm saying? Amazon is as big as our frickin' Department of Defense. It's in the same sentence. The virtual students named Anne Fry will enroll in freshman starting class in spring of 2024. Faculty and staff will monitor their interactions with professors and classmates, then use what they have learned to apply to potential applications in education and other areas. Molly Cooper, a Ferris professor and scholar of information security, cybersecurity, and artificial intelligence, and the virtual students' experiences will help faculty members find new ways to make education more accessible, among other uses on campus and in the community. By the way, one of my resolutions that I forgot to say in my 2024 goals video, I will not use AI. I dabbled just a little bit last year when ChatGPT first came out. So maybe it was even the end of 2022. But I will not let AI think for me. And that is exactly what they want. They, being Kissinger, wrote a book with someone that is very much into AI, a leader of the technology. I can't remember his name right now, but they came out with a book in 2021. It's on my list, one of the next books I'm buying, because Whitney Webb actually recommended it. And in that, the whole goal is that AI will be so dependent on AI that we won't know how to think for ourselves. And so to combat that, I'm not using it whatsoever. I don't care if I'm left behind. I'm going to think for myself. I'm going to read everything for myself, and I'm not trusting it. Ferris State is a leader in artificial intelligence education and can leverage its expertise to use the technology we teach to strengthen our ability to lead. Cooper said, the more we use artificial intelligence, we can see what it is capable of and how we can use it to do things more efficiently and effectively. Again, we can use it to think for us. Not I. I am going to maintain humanity. I'm not going to be a transhuman. I'm not going to put a chip in my right hand. Okay? Not doing it. Artificial intelligence is the development of computer systems that can perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. Yeah, replace human intelligence. That can include visual perception as well as speech recognition, decision-making, and translating. AI technology can process large amounts of data to recognize patterns and make decisions. right, but it'll never have the capacity a human being will have, because human beings made this technology and intelligent design made us. So we are better and more powerful than AI ever could be, but that's not to say it's not dangerous. If we allow it to take over, then it's our own stupidity. Connie says you have to be so careful with AI and ChatGPT as they are slipping into many apps. I feel the same way. They are. Even texting. I will start texting something and it will show like a grammar error before I finish the sentence. Like it's totally AI, even in our text messages. Ugh, it's awful. Pretty soon we're gonna have a crossroads, y'all. And the crossroads will be, are you gonna live in the real world off the land and have no technology until alternative technology can be built? Or are you gonna get a digital ID and have everything you do tracked online and, you know, be in the metaverse, in the matrix, in the technological world? It sucks, but it really is going to come down to that. That's what they're forcing our hand. If you want to use this technology, you have to have a digital ID. That's going to be within the next year. And you know what? It's going to be problem, reaction, solution from this election. Because this election is going to be such chaos, they're going to say we need a digital ID so we know, you're a human and not an AI. Even though they're the ones that are causing the AI chaos. So, order out of chaos works for them. The field now has roles in cloud computing, cybersecurity, data science, and robotics, among other areas. The scope of artificial intelligence applications is accelerating and becoming critical for more industries, from healthcare and education to marketing and logistics. The virtual student project involves a variety of Ferris State academic departments and is being directed by the Information Security and Intelligence Department. Faculty members created backstories for Anna and Fry based on real student experiences, which will be used to help them complete tasks such as declaring a major. These virtual students and this is now, what if those fake individuals go out and vote? These virtual students and the work we are doing around them are another example of Ferris State showing leadership in technological fields, says Bobby Fleischman. Our students have opportunities to learn from faculty members who are experts in their fields, gaining skills with real-world applications that will lead to rewarding careers. Ferris State hosted its first AI Day earlier in December, a faculty collaboration from various programs and student organizations. About 300 area high school students attended sessions in the university's Center for Virtual Learning and participated in a series of interactive exhibits and workshops. From, including Deepfake Lab, AI Social Engineering Lab, Autonomous Vehicle Racing, working with ChatGPT, and AI's use in cyber and satellite cybersecurity. You know what's another thing? Is that Ferris State actually has an esports team. It's one of the only colleges around here that has an esports team. My nephew is interested in that because he's a huge gamer. But I thought that was interesting as well. So they're definitely all in on the tech over in Ferris. One more thing about Ferris. The 2024-2027 strategic plan. So master plans, colleges have them, cities have them, states have them. Companies, corporations have them. So important to look at these master plans to understand where they're going. So you see the 4 pillars: belonging. Belonging is the opportunity to explore, discover, and thrive authentically in secure environment that values, respects, supports, and celebrates in an inclusive community. Innovation. It says working definition. They're working on it. A creative approach to problem solving, experimentation that leads to implementation of new ideas and continuously improve and add value to Ferris State University stakeholders. Student excellence Ferris State defines student excellence as a commitment to personal academic growth through a mastery of relevant knowledge and experiences. Develop capabilities that enable them to continuously learn, adapt, serve, and perform their career. And then sustainability. Now, this being a pillar is important because Sustainable development is United Nations. Sustainable is a word United Nations made up. And so whenever you hear it, it is absolutely a part of their Agenda 2030. Originally Agenda 21, but you hear it now as Agenda 2030 or 2050. Sustainability is making deliberate decisions to serve people, environment, and economic viability in our campus in a regenerative manner to conserve and enhance our resources. Down here, you have the sustainability. The person who is on the steering committee for sustainability is Dan Eichinger, which I have discussed before because he was a high-ranking executive in the cabinet of Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer and was named Ferris State University's vice president for governmental and external affairs, a lobbyist. He is a lobbyist that is in Ferris State right now. Eichinger has been a principal executive leading a combined 3,000 staff and more than $1.6 billion in state agencies as the director of the Michigan Department of Natural Resources and as acting director of EGLE. So heavily involved, just making the connection that Ferris State and all the colleges are they're implementing United Nations Agenda 21. And this is how the UN is going to create a new world order. It's going to take over America. So we're going to get over here. Former mayor of Grand Rapids, George Hartwell, announced as 2030 Leadership Awardee for 2023. It just came out. The U.S. Green Building Council of West Michigan. This is something we all need to be aware of and look into. And in fact, I might try to make, if I can get enough information, I will do a video on it. Let's see. I'm going to put it in there. So, they announced Honorable George Hartwell, former Grand Rapids mayor, as this year's 2030 Leadership Award winner. The 2030 Leadership Award recognizes organizations and individuals that have taken the initiative to decarbonize Grand Rapids and make strides towards global climate goals, all based on a lie that we are destroying the planet with carbon, as carbon-based life forms. Mr. Hartwell served as mayor of Grand Rapids for 12 years, from 2004 to 2016, and for 8 years as city commissioner before that. Some of his most notable accomplishments include, but are not limited to, in 2015, towards the end of his third term, the city had achieved an overall 25% conservation rate, while experiencing modest growth in the water customer base over the past 10 years. 2015 is when Obama resold this out, reiterated Agenda 21, we're doing it. Investment in renewable energy, with about 26% of municipal demand being supplied from energy from renewable resources. He created the Office of Sustainability. He adopted renewable energy goals and the 5-year sustainability plan. He launched the Vital Streets campaign. I have discussed in my Grand Rapids Master Plan deep dives. This Vital Streets campaign is absolutely part of the 15-minute city agenda. The launch of the Grand Rapids 2030 district in December of 2015 with help from Mr. Hartwell and alongside business, government, and community leaders. Come down here, though. Can you describe your sustainability journey over the time as city mayor? What are some notable points or turning points in your journey? After the election, but prior to taking office, I formed a Mayor's Environmental Advisory Council to help craft my environmental policy for the 4 years I was sure of having as mayor. The council stayed together for all 3 of my terms and was hugely instrumental in advancing our environmental work. Guy Bazzani helped me understand the importance of planting our environmental work under the sustainability triple bottom line. I immediately created an Office of Sustainability, initially staffed with 5 FTE Corky Overmeyer. The city and GVSU shared the cost of the consultant to help us do sustainability planning. After our plans were finished, Norman went to work full-time with GVSU, and I hired a full-time sustainability director, Dr. Harris Alabasic. I'm pretty sure that in my deep dive, that was the individual that I pointed out, and that he definitely is working directly for the United Nations. Without a person fully dedicated to this work, I am convinced GR could not have advanced in sustainability as it did. One note of pride, in 2004, I said that GR would become the most sustainable city in the nation. People chuckled. My adversaries griped. In 2010, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce awarded Grand Rapids its Siemens Sustainability Prize as the nation's most sustainable mid-sized city. That sucks. That's not something that I want. Again, 16 cameras, 13 or 16, were just put on all of the wrong way signs, which means that if you're going the right way, your license plate is being recorded by the camera at all times. And any information, all the information is sent to the police department, streaming basically. Those cameras stream directly to the police department. This is the sustainable city that this mayor has set up for us. This is where we're going. A surveillance city. This right here. What does sustainability and sustainable city mean to you? Has that changed since you left office? Did it change over your 12 years as mayor? Sustainability is a process, a journey, as some have called it, not a fixed outcome. Right, because they never want it to end. That's why the climate scam is such a perfect excuse. It's like it's a never-ending thing. You'll never know if you did what you were supposed to do for it to be done. It will go on and on forever, as long as they want it to. It's so perfect. Just like the never-ending space program. One success leads to another. One failure is cause for learning and correction. Has my understanding changed? Absolutely. Has my dedication to the process changed? Yes, it has grown. I'm no longer in a position I once was to directly impact sustainable organization. But sustainability has become the goal of every organizational board on which I serve. As an example, Ferris State University, on whose board I sit, with my urging, just adopted sustainability as one of its 4 planning pillars for the upcoming campus master plan, and again with my urging, the board adopted LEED requirement for every new or renovated building. LEED is, again, Sustainable Development, United Nations, and 15-minute city, or 20-minute neighborhood. The same thing though. No private vehicles, you walk everywhere, you own nothing, you'll be happy, you'll be watched every step you take, and you'll have a social credit score. If you want to ride on that high-speed rail that they're going to build, you better be nice and do what the government wants. How do you continue your passion for sustainability and environmental justice in your life today? See bullet 3, plus the new home we built in Newaygo County is heated and cooled with geothermal and passive solar. And 3 weeks ago, we signed a contract to install ground-mounted solar to meet all our residential electric needs. I need to look into what they're talking about. A new home, maybe his home? He lives in Newaygo County? Maybe that's what he meant. Connie says, that is not something I want either. It makes me sick. I didn't notice this much earlier. They have accomplished so many of their goals. So many. But there is a movement happening over in the UK. After they put all those cameras, they started fining people. They started sending fines. So at first, it was no big deal for like first 6 months, maybe a year. They were just being surveilled. But then the fines come. That's when people started to get mad and smash the cameras. So we're not there yet, but we'll see. Does the United States, do the people in the United States have a backbone, or are they too fat and happy and complacent? That's the question. So the last thing I want to talk about, I will save this actually for tomorrow. The state AG's blast Biden Wall Street plan to sell Americans public lands. The last thing I'm going to talk about is just a quick update on the Michigan GOP situation. So we come here, and this individual, Carolyn Ryan, says, breaking, the rhinos in Michigan who tried to sabotage America First election integrity fighter Christina Karamo, with the help of conservative influencers who didn't know what the hell they were talking about, have been shut down. Karamo stays on as chairwoman of the Michigan GOP. Huge win. This individual Now, both of these people are America First Michigander. My governor is an idiot. Facts matter. Having to build back my second account from zero. Okay. And these people, Lord Mighty Human Z, sorry, and Cat Turd, I follow them. So both of these individuals really believe that what they're doing is right. And so my whole thing I want to say is that, again, I know grassroots individuals on both sides of this argument. And it really is a terrible thing that grassroots movements are being infiltrated, or not infiltrated, maybe infiltrated, yeah, but divided in such a way. Because there's no doubt in my mind that the people that tried to get rid of Christina Caramo, they are grassroots and they do want what's best. They think they're doing what's best. But the problem is not Christina Caramo from what I see. The problem is the fact that the big donors will not give Christina Caramo, the grassroots pick, any money because that's not their pick. So this individual, Julie, says you need to look up the description of Rhino. And again, I don't consider the people that I know that I have spoken to rhinos that were part of this meeting that was trying to get rid of Christina Caramo. So I wouldn't call them rhinos. Now, is that to say that there's not rhinos involved? Again, it's so complicated. I don't know. But the ones that I talk to, they're real human beings, true grassroots. They want to win on the side that is against Christina Caramo. And to me, the problem is the big donors. Why aren't they backing what we the people wanted? I mean, I didn't vote for her. I'm not a Republican, but you understand what I mean. If grassroots actually put Christina Caramo in, why aren't the donors going with what the grassroots people wanted? That should be the question, in my opinion. Whoops. Shoot. There we go. So you need to look up the description of Rhino. You are parroting the names used by KK and her crew, names that they and you know will get a rise out of people before even knowing the truth. You people are dead wrong on this. Read the bylaws. Truth always prevails. So I ask, what is the truth in this situation? Because I do want to know. I see it a certain way, especially because the mainstream media has been attacking her from the beginning. But could it be a feint? A double cross? I don't know. We live in the age of deception, and I am wading through the sea of treachery as best as I can. So if I'm wrong on something and I find out I'm wrong, I will inform you. But so far, I'm still thinking that the problem here are the donors. Like, the DeVosses, which I've found out a lot of information. I could do a video on them if you guys are interested. And Wisner, the big donors that usually give millions and millions of dollars to the Republican Party. Why did they pull their funding? That's the question, in my opinion. But Julie says, here's a brief synopsis of the truth and why the January 6th meeting was legitimate and the January 13th was not. You have to understand the bylaws, really, but here it is. Click on each picture to see it all. So, I have a present for you, clearing up the common MRP bylaws misconception. This one even comes from a past county vice chair. I find it hugely laughable that they consider 45 to be quorum for a vote, which requires a majority of 170 to be present. This poor chap didn't read carefully enough. Look again. Quorum, a majority of the total membership of the committee present in person or by proxy, shall constitute a quorum to transact all business of committee except where the action of the committee requires a larger number of members as specially set forth by these bylaws. So again, the other reason, real quick, is Christina Caramo doesn't have leadership skills. But the biggest reason is she can't make money and they want to win. Okay? Some people still think that we vote for presidents, and so they want to help their candidate win, and they don't think that that's going to happen under Christina Caramo. So those are the two biggest reasons that I know. Read carefully. The bylaws say present, meaning the mass of the quorum is calculated by the state from those state committee members who actually cared enough to show up and fulfill their duty. I don't like that. I don't really like that. It doesn't just Say a majority of the total membership. It says a majority of the total membership of the committee present. Just like in elections, if voters don't show up, there are no do-overs. State committee members must understand the bylaws and must do their duty to show up and conduct the business of the committee. If you don't show up, then you lose your right to complain. This is why the January 6th quorum was indeed valid and Chair Caramo was legally removed, and why the January 13th event was just a pity party. Because of a duty to serve, we'd like to help UTM folks and ex-Chair Caramo bust through that emotional bias and increase their reading comprehension. To call a special meeting equals to schedule a special meeting. Notices of special meeting, the official message notifying that a special meeting has been scheduled. Governing documents and rules, order of priority. MRP bylaws have priority over Robert's rules. The MRP bylaws state notices of special meetings shall state the purpose of such meetings. And the business of the committee, the specific reason the committee was called for. The pre-scheduled business of the committee in written form equals the meeting agenda. Robert's rules. The only business that can be transacted at a special meeting is that which has been specified in the call of the meeting. This matches the MRP bylaws. In summary, per the MRP bylaws, when a special meeting is called, the notice, method of notification, email, etc., shall include a meeting agenda, the stated purpose of the meeting. Final conclusion, the agenda of special meetings cannot be changed except at a regular meeting or other special meeting properly called for that purpose. And I believe that was all. So then, here we go. If you change the purpose of the meeting, then what you are effectively doing is creating a new but improperly called meeting. No sane person should accept that a special meeting called for special reasons could have the purpose of the meeting, the agenda, changed at the last minute because the purpose and importance of a meeting will definitely affect attendance. Amendments to motions covered in the original call must be germane, related to the matter at hand. If a club prefers to ignore a fair process and then unofficial actions are taken outside the original meeting call, then those actions would have to be ratified in a regular meeting or another properly called special meeting. Now let's backtrack. The January 13th meeting was never the meeting requested by the state committee. Members. To begin with, because former Chair Caramo did not schedule the business that state committee members requested, her dishonest claim that they were illegal requests is false, and besides, the role of the chair is to preside, and she could have called the items out of order at the meeting. I'll tell you right now that the body would have appealed the chair and voted to overrule her if that false claim had happened, but Caramo chose the dictator queen route and scheduled a meeting covering topics that were not requested, a meeting that did not address the concerns of the body. She selfishly scheduled her own special meeting with her own purposes. That is exactly why state committees were able to properly call and hold the January 6th meeting that removed Chair Caramo. Caramo is ignoring bylaws again. The agenda of special meetings can't be changed. Per Robert's rules, the agenda for a special meeting can only be changed at a regular meeting or another special meeting properly called for that purpose. Neither has happened nor will happen. Caramo and crew have changed the agenda for the club gathering on the 13th. So, not only is her special meeting on the 13th invalid, because on January 6th the state committee voted to cancel the meeting, but even Caramo's unofficial rogue special meeting is against the bylaws by not following proper preliminary procedure. Wow. Conclusion. The 50% threshold, 54 signatures of the SC, was met according to Article 4, Section G, Subsection 2, and submitted on time to both the Secretary and the Chair before it was brought before the committee, also meeting the bylaw requirement. The motion was brought before the committee and was seconded, bringing about discussion. Once discussion had ended, voting took place via secret ballot. Per the bylaws, only the members present were allowed to vote with no proxies. The total SC voting was 45. The teller, in full view of the entire committee, read each vote out loud. The final count was 40 in favor of removal, 5 opposed. This fulfills the 75% threshold, 88% actual, for the removal of Christina Caramo as the chair of the Michigan GOP, according to Article 4, Section G, subsection 2. So that's one side. And there are 3 sides to every story. And I'm sure that more and more will continue to come out on what the actual truth is. But final conclusion. Per Article 6, a special meeting was requested by at least 1/3 signed SC members and submitted with a purpose to Chair Caramo on December 2nd of 2023. Per Article 6, Section B of the MSRP bylaws, the chair has 15 days to either respond or not to the requested special meeting with proposed purpose. Chair Caramo called the special meeting to be held in January, but refused to abide by the purpose brought forth by at least 1/3 SC members. She did not meet the 15-day requirement to call the meeting with the purpose. On December 31st, 2023, SC called the meeting for the date of January 6, 2024, per Article 6, Section B, and fulfilling the minimum 5-day notice to SC members. Per the bylaws, this special meeting met all requirements for legality and was conducted properly in accordance with the MSRP bylaws. To conduct business of the party on January 6th, a quorum must be met. Per Article 6, Section C, a quorum of the majority of SC was met, with a total of 71 SC members and proxies accounted for. 46 SC and 25 proxies. All proxies were seated in accordance to Articles 3, Section 1. The minimum threshold of at least 50% was met, and the business of the party could actually be voted on. One thing that was asked that was weird, why was the lawyer that is Christina Caramo's lawyer, why was he at the meeting participating and then said it was an illegitimate meeting? I think he even voted. Don't quote me on that. But that was a question I thought I would put forth to you because I don't have an answer, but I thought it was a valid question. Why was he at the meeting if they did not agree with it? I mean, was he there just to see what was up? Probably, like a little bit of a spy. I don't know, though. The bylaw presented for a vote was first introduced to the Policy Committee, then each committee member on November 4th, 2023, per Article 15, Sections A and B. The 30 minimum requirement for an amendment on the bylaws was met with the vote taking place on January 6, 2024, per Article 15, Section C. The threshold to pass the bylaw of 66.67% was met with a vote of 39 in favor and 5 opposed. Per the bylaws, the amendment passes. So it was, according to the bylaw of this committee, that a special meeting was legally conducted on January 6, 2024, with a threshold of quorum to conduct business obtained, that the matters of the stated purpose and fulfilling all necessary requirements. So, they still think that Christina Caramo was voted out. However, Christina Caramo just put a ban of 5 years on her co-chair, Melinda Pago. So again, I don't know. I heard also that Christina Caramo started shutting out Melinda Pago around July. So they got voted in together in February. So not even 6 months later, something happened. What happened to cause a rift between the two individuals? That is something we need to know in order to have the full story, because they're both basically pointing at each other and calling each other Democrats. The groups, not necessarily Christina Caramo and Melinda Pago, but the two groups are calling each other anti-grassroots or Democrats, whatever. And I think that's wrong. I think both of them want to do, for the most part, I think 95% of both groups want what's right for Michiganders, the country, what have you. But there are 5% that have infiltrated, and they are doing a damn good job being a bull in a china shop and destroying the unity that was found in the grassroots movements when they hired Christina Caramo. And it sucks. Thank you, is what I said. What is the main complaint against Caramo that caused this rift? One main reason was a lawsuit filed by Dan Hartman against the trust and Comerica Bank. It will make all SC members liable for over $8,000 each for the party's debt. not raising any money was number 2. We are broke. We can't win elections without money. She promised to raise $50 million. Again, that isn't fair. She can't raise money if the secret freaking rich people, the shadow party that Fox News even said when Christina Caramo and Melinda Pago first were elected, hired in, that there was a group of big donors that were not happy and they were going to form their own shadow party. It was in the news. So it's like, I don't see how it's Christina Caramo's fault. And I don't think you should bend the knee. I think that we should be putting pressure on donors to, do the will of the people. We wanted her. We, grassroots people, wanted her. And I like that she talks about the World Economic Forum. I'm not going to lie. She does speak my language, okay? So I am susceptible to that because not enough people talk about the World Economic Forum taking over Michigan and the United Nations taking over the United States. So somebody that talks about it has my favor. I'm not going to lie about it. But that's exactly why I think that she is being, not crucified, but, shut out. She ain't getting any money because she talks about the owners of these people, the one everybody's working for, the United Nations and the World Economic Forum, these global think tanks. This individual says that's not true, FYIW. The old administration is trying to sell that lie because they are terrified of what happens to them in discovery when they are under deposition. So, again, two sides. Laura Loomer is one of them that's that's against Christina Caramo, and I don't like Laura Loomer at all. In fact, I think she said something kind of racist about Christina Caramo, calling her a DEI hire. I don't like that whatsoever, and I think Laura Loomer is, she's not really America first, she's Israel first. That's just my opinion, take it or leave it. But one more piece of summary right here, and then I'm going to have to leave you. So let me make some things clear. This is just this gentleman, Mike Detmer, and I don't know who that individual is, so perhaps I should have muckraked, and maybe he isn't reliable. But I thought that it was well worded, so I'm going to share it. Let me make some things clear to the people of Michigan. This bad blood against Michigan GOP Chair Christina Caramo and the financial state of the Michigan GOP would have been no different had Caramo not been elected at convention and some other grassroots candidate had been. The argument by the district chairs that have lined up against her is the party has no money and it's all chaos. It's all Caramo's fault. Unfortunately for Caramo and all other true non-establishment folks who jump into Michigan politics, they quickly discover that unless one sets principles aside and kiss the ring of the power brokers, you don't and won't stand a chance. Period. This is to me, this feels right. Instinct. Bend the knee. Do what we say or you ain't getting any money. Well, my first response is Rage Against the Machine. When Caramo won the party chair position, and not one of the cherished good old boys, I guarantee the Michigan swamp circled their wagons to ensure she failed at every turn, including the money. Don't doubt me on this, folks. It most likely would have been the exact same outcome had DePerno won. I promise you. Lastly, there are some posts and articles floating around claiming that Caramo is or was the president of some PAC in Nevada that supposedly had donated to Democrats. Well, if that's true, I'm not sure why the establishment Republicans are so upset. After all, they have been playing in the Democratic sandbox here in Michigan for decades. Guess it's okay as long as they do it. I guess that PAC that she was in, she's no longer in, but it was about election integrity. And so it worked with both Democrats and Republicans for that end. Right or wrong, that's up to you to decide, Republicans. But personally, I think that she's being attacked because she's anti-establishment. And I don't want to bend the knee for money. And she doesn't seem to want to bend the knee for money. And I understand that people want to win, they want to support Donald Trump, but my opinion is Donald Trump is going to win because that's the script. So he will be president. He was chosen by the establishment to fill the role that he has filled. And that's where I stand. And if you've been here any length of time, you know that. So that's all I have for today. Again, I have so much information. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna go just a little long. I want to share this because this is the good news. Really quick. Snowflakes fall to the ground according to a universal pattern. This is, to me, proof, if you need it, of intelligent design. After analyzing the way 500,000 snowflakes fell during mountain storms in Utah, researchers found surprising similarities. Individual snowflakes have unique, intricate patterns, but the complicated way in which they fall appears to be universal. To me, that reminds me of a paradox. It's kind of like drops of water in an ocean. They're individual, a part of a collective, just like human beings, just like snowflakes. Normally, when an object falls to the ground, it picks up speed until the force of gravity. Density and buoyancy. Look that up. The forces of density and buoyancy and air resistance balance out. At this point, the object stops accelerating, reaching its terminal velocity. However, light and delicately shaped snowflakes get caught in turbulent airflows on their way down, which turns their descent into a more complicated sequence of floating and twirling. This makes the path they take, along with their velocities and accelerations, difficult to predict. This individual, Singh, at the University of Utah, and his colleagues have found that despite these complications, snowflakes still follow universal rules. Who created those universal rules? The researchers, you can't have science without rules, and you can't have rules without someone creating them. I used to be an avid atheist, and so to me, now I look around and I see the signature of this beautiful painting everywhere. And at once, one time I did not. One time I was a very lost soul, very sad soul. But yeah, this is just another beautiful example of intelligent design. The researchers measured the mass, size, and density of over 500,000 falling snowflakes on a mountain near Salt Lake City, Utah. And they built a device to do that using a laser light, a hot plate, and 2 different cameras. The way the snowflakes blocked the light gave the velocity and acceleration, and how the snowflakes evaporated on the hot plate afterwards gave the mass and density. The device captured vastly different snowflakes, some 20 times larger or 20 times denser than others in very different conditions, like during more or less turbulent storms. But when the researchers analyzed the data, they found surprising evidence of universal behavior across all snowflakes in all conditions. The way that snowflakes accelerated and their terminal velocities fluctuated followed the same statistical pattern, forming 2 unexpectedly simple and similar lines. Each was described by a statistical distribution called a laprecon, a narrower and more peaked cousin to the normal distribution. Tim Garrett of the University of Utah, who worked on the project, says the reason for the similarity isn't clear yet, and no one on the team expected to find a pattern that would fit so many different snowflakes. To try to understand their findings, he and his colleagues are planning to upgrade their device to be able to capture the snowflake and airflow in more detail. So I thought that was beautiful. To me, it makes sense to have different, basically, codes, right? A squirrel has a variety of things that it can do. It's kind of on there's an algorithm. We copy nature, we copy what we see. And so the algorithm that a dog is on is different than what a squirrel is on, and it's different what a snowflake is on, but there's still an algorithm, there's still a pattern. And I thought it was cool that they're looking at the pattern in snowflakes, especially since we got like a foot of snow in 24 hours, maybe just a little over. So it's finally winter here in Michigan. That's all I have. I hope that I shared some information that you didn't have previously. And I thank you, each and every one of you, for hanging out. Tomorrow, it's going to be more about technology. And next week, I have the Whitmer's State of the State address that I'm going to be live streaming and reacting live. And then I'm really going to try to get that Michigan Healthy Climate Plan out before that. So Tuesday, the day before her little State of the State speech, because the Healthy Michigan Climate Plan is very important. I've been really slammed with other real world things that suck. 2024 has been, it's been a year already, but I think that the Michigan Healthy Climate Plan is important, and I want to make sure that I really know the material before I present it. So I'm sorry it's taken so long, but it is en route. And yeah, I hope to see you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to talk about technology. I got Ford, wind and solar, digital ID, all kinds of tech info. So hopefully I'll see y'all tomorrow. Thank you guys. I love you. Love your neighbor. And stay warm out there. Peace out.